Welcome to the December the 8th, 1998 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie. As we bring you the history of our city and some of the people that are very important in having made that history and are continuing to make history today. This is our history tape number 353, and we're just delighted that that number matches a very special couple here in Grand Prairie, Texas, and that is Mr. and Mrs. Wallace Owen Warmack. We are so pleased, Betty, and we're going to get to your full name in just a few minutes. It's going to be, we're just so glad to have y'all here.
We're so glad to be here, Ruthie.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And Wally, we really are glad to have you here too as a captive, and we're glad that Betty invited you and saw for sure that you were going to be here with us today to document the history of the Warmacks in Grand Prairie, Texas. And with your permission, we'll begin with Miss Betty. And Betty, I'd like for us to talk about your genealogy just a little. I'd like for you to name your parents and where you were born. And if you had siblings, I'd like for you to name them and tell a little something about them if they're here locally, and if you have a special grandparent or anything you'd like to talk about in your past, let's do that right now. And this is your camera right out here.
Ruthie, I was born in Texarkana, Arkansas in November of 1931. My mother was Sarah Elizabeth Bolden Hopkins. My father was William Perry Hopkins of Texarkana.
Of Texarkana.
And
and that was on the Texas side?
We lived on the Texas side, but I was born on the Arkansas side.
On the Arkansas side.
2 days later, I returned to Texas.
Okay, oh, that's wonderful.
I have one sister, Mary Will Hopkins Fisher.
All right.
She and her husband, Donovan, live in Arlington, Virginia. He is retired from the U.S. State Department.
Okay.
They have no children. We have one child.
Okay, and we're not going to talk about your child just exactly yet, but now we know that you're married and that you are a family, so we're going to get back with that. But now, let's talk about the real Betty Warmack when she was younger. And you started to school where?
I started a school at Liberty School. We lived just outside of Texarkana, close to the International Chris Oden Construction Company, where my father was manager.
Was Liberty a county school, or was it part of the...
It was a county school.
It was a county school?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It was a 10-grade school.
Okay.
We went there for the 10 grades, and then we bused into Texarkana to Texarkana High.
To Texarkana High School.
For our 11th and 12th grades.
Okay. Okay, now, but let's get back to Liberty. Kind of out in the country, wonderful teachers
yes.
in that
small school.
10 grade small school. Did you have a large class or a small class of yours, or did you have maybe 2 grades in one class, or how was that handled?
No, we had regular one class per grade, and very small classes. Now the students were bused to Liberty from farther out in the country.
Oh.
Way out in the bottomlands of around, and but it was, at first it was just a one building school, and then of course later as we progressed through the grades, outbuildings, so to speak,
yes.
Auxiliary buildings were added to take care of the increased number of students.
Enrollment. All right, now, did Betty have any special teachers from the 1st through the 10th grade that really made an impact on your life? A teacher that really did encourage you and made you want to go on into Texarkana to high school or to study hard, or was there some special people in your life in that elementary?
Well, yes, I remember our English teacher, Mrs. Ray Yoakum, in our 10th, she taught several grades.
Yes.
8th, 9th, 10th English, and she was very, very good teacher, very a teacher who was able to interest you in English, you know, which is not always the most enlivened subject.
Yes.
But she was one who could foster interest in school in general. Very good teacher.
Good, and you would have deemed her as probably your favorite teacher during the time you were there in the...
Well, when I was old enough to really think about it.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
first grade teachers are always interesting.
Oh, so special. Aren't
Yes,
they?
but when you're old enough to really think about what you're looking forward to.
Okay.
And then my mother started teaching at Liberty.
All right.
When I was in the 8th grade.
All
She
right,
taught math.
She taught math.
She taught math.
And was that one of your favorite subjects also? And did you ever sit at your mother's feet?
I
class?
didn't have mother.
All
My
right.
sister did, who was 18 months behind me. She
All
was
right.
18 months younger. She was a grade behind me. But she had mother, but I was past that.
All right.
I was past mother when she started teaching.
Oh.
She had been a teacher before she married, and then in Arkansas, plus in Texas, she was born and raised in Waldron, Arkansas, and she taught back in the country in those days. She was going to school part of the time, and she'd go out to teach in the little country schools and live with the chairman of the school board.
How wonderful.
Yes.
What an experience.
Yes, and then she came to Texarkana and taught and married, and then she was off. She never did, at that time, had not completed her degree, but she then, when she wanted to go back to teaching, she had to go back and get her certificate. She
Yes.
finished her bachelor's and then went on to her master's. And
That should have given you some encouragement right there.
oh yes, Mother was always an encouraging person as far as studying. She always took us to the library, to this little small library in an old home in Texarkana.
All right.
And we went there every week as far as I can remember and read everything we could get our hands on. Of course, in those days we only had radio
Yes.
and reading. We played outside a lot with our neighboring children, which I think it's sad that the children nowadays don't
Get to
have
do
that
that.
so much. And as a result, I could never be bored
As
in
long
my
as you could
life
have a book.
because as long as I can have a book, I'm never bored. And I have so much to do, I don't read that much, but when I have a minute, I grab that book, as Wally can well attest.
All right, now on to high school in Texarkana. How was it transferring from Liberty and busing into Texarkana to high school?
Well, you can have the idea, you can imagine, Ruthie, we were the poor little kids from the country.
Yes,
We had to fight for everything we got, and some didn't make it.
Well, what
They
was your...
could not
Make the transition.
They couldn't make the transition and stand the pressure of, you might call it. But I don't think I ever really paid much attention to it.
You you have to hang in
Just
there.
hung
don't
in
you?
there.
Yes.
Just hung in there. And
What was your favorite teacher and subject at high school?
oh, let me think. Names are beginning to escape me. We had a wonderful couple who taught at the high school. Their name was Forrester, and they were. Did he teach the math?
He taught math, she taught civics and history.
Yeah, that's right. And they were
Real special
boy.
couple.
They cracked the whip, but they made you interested, and you worked.
That's good. And then we have you at high school, and you graduated in what year from?
1949.
1949 was the magic year. That was a good year. We're going to get back with you in a few minutes, but we must bring Wally up to speed, okay? Okay, Wally, your camera right here. We want you to look out and tell us about the real Wally Warmack, starting, we know your full name now that we've given away that secret. We never did give Elizabeth's full name.
No, you didn't.
No, we didn't. Elizabeth Ann,
Jane.
Elizabeth Jane, so it's kind of Betty Jane?
Yes.
And then it's shortened to Betty? All right, we have that in the record now, but let's talk about you as a
Okay.
young person, your family.
I think to get started with Wally Wormack, we have to look at something issued by the U.S. federal government,
Hold that right up here, but not over your face. That's good.
which is a passport that shows that I was born on January 20th, 1832.
That's
So
what
right now I'm 166 years old, and this is probably the oldest man you've ever had on your TV show.
Exactly.
Documented by the federal government.
And what date did they have on your passport?
1832.
1832. Isn't that
I remember a
something?
lot of presidents.
I would think so. I would think you would. All right, now tell us about your family.
I was born in between McAllen and Mission, a little area called Sherryland, which was a land development company that was started in the to sell citrus groves to the northerners. Anywhere north of the Rio Grande Valley was northerners. My parents had come from Arkansas down there, had bought 20 acres and started establishing a citrus grove. And I was down there till I was about 11 years old. The war came along.
Wait, you're going a little bit too fast for us now. Where you were born was in the valley. Did you have any brothers or sisters?
No brothers, no sisters, just a singles myself.
Yourself, and between 1 year old and 11 years old, when you were down there, you did start to school there?
I started school at Sherryland.
All right.
It was a little school at that time. It probably had, it was a full 11 grade school. At that time, it just had 11 grades in Texas. And all 11 grades were there in the school. It was a U-shaped building with the auditorium in the center. You started out on the left-hand side at the first grade, and you finished the 11th grade up on the right-hand side.
Made the complete U,
And
didn't
you
you?
went around the U.
Okay.
Talked to a fellow not long ago who is from Sherryland also, and they've got a new school system now, which I was glad to find out. It has not disappeared from the face of the earth.
All right, and when you were there, did you have a favorite teacher during your elementary grades that really impacted your life, that made you want to study later on or choose a special career?
Ruthie, I'd say no.
right.
I had a lot of good teachers. I had a lot of good friends that were friends of the family, but nobody really impressed me there.
All right.
When I was 11 years old, the war had come along, and Dad was still in the fruit business, but he had a packing shed that depended upon trucks to move the
fruit?
citrus fruit to the north, and there was no fuel for trucks, so everything had to go to railroad, and if you could get a railroad car. So his business went down, and he closed it, went into civil service, went off and trained several places like Lexington, Kentucky, Baltimore, Maryland, and finally we sold the homestead and followed him to Asbury Park, New Jersey,
Wow.
where I attended the 8th grade.
Okay.
Quite a trauma for a young man. I left the school, probably had 100 students in it for 12 years. I went to a middle school that probably had 300 students in 3 grades.
Wow. That was a transition.
It was a
indeed.
transition, yes, it
Yes.
was. I finally got over it. Had a lot of fun there, a lot of good. I got to see while I was there, I got to see my first New York play, got to hear my first risque stories on New York plays. And
Yes.
right there on the ocean, could swim every day you wanted to. It was exciting. I didn't take advantage as much of it as I should. I never went crabbing, I never went lobstering, I fished in the jetties, hunted octopus for bait, freshwater eels for bait. Had a lot of fun there.
Yes, that sounds like a lot of fun. Ben, you finally got out of school. Where'd you graduate?
Well, stayed up in New Jersey a couple of years, migrated back to Prescott, Arkansas, where Dad had a sister living. I stayed with my uncle and aunt Waters for about 9 months while Mother and Dad went to Texarkana and tried to establish a business, which they did. They put in with a nephew, a Waters and Wormack grocery store, a little grocery store that catered to the lower income families right at the city limits, where the bus turned around in the front parking lot.
How exciting.
And you passed it going to my house.
Did you ever get to work in the store?
There was no choice when I worked in the store, Ruthie. I was paid $2 a week.
to work in the store for your parents?
I worked all day Saturday. I worked from school out on Friday, all day Saturday till 8 o'clock, from 10 to 3 on Sunday, and whenever I could during the weekday.
Oh, that is wonderful.
For $2.
And all the time you were going to school at high school?
High school, huh?
There at Prescott?
No, this was by the time we'd moved to Texarkana, Texas.
So
I was just spent about 9 months in Arkansas.
is that where you met Miss Becky?
Yeah, in fact, I met her standing out on the street, and the school bus came by going to DeQueen, Arkansas to a swimming party for the junior-senior trip. And so I had gone home, and the school bus picked me out in front of the store, and there was only one vacant seat on the bus left.
Yes.
And you can guess it was with the cutest lady that was ever there.
Yes, yes, yes. That was a real providence
It
for
was,
you,
it was,
wasn't
it was.
Yes. And so
And,
you all got acquainted on the bus
Got
going to
acquainted
the
on the
swimming
bus
party?
and didn't stop very much after that.
Oh, that is just wonderful. So you graduated from Texarkana
1948.
in 1948, 1 year before you did.
Yes.
And during that 1948 to 1949, where did you go, Wally?
I went to the Texarkana Junior College there in town,
All right.
just across the alley from the high school.
All right, and
Actually-
what was your big major?
I was going into engineering.
All right,
Thought I was going to electrical engineering, and I sure enough did.
all right.
And spent two years at Texarkana Junior College, and had a great experience there. I have to say that I have to thank Ross Perot for helping me graduate from Texarkana Junior College, because there was about half the class that was flunking calculus, and I was in that half.
Yes.
And he tutored us many afternoons so that we could pass our exams.
How wonderful.
So he saved my career.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And that is just stupendous that he would give volunteer time like that to help young people. Isn't that great? That is a real wonderful tribute to
Yes.
Mr. Perot.
Yeah, he was in his, he was just a student like us, but he was smart.
He knew the calculus.
He knew the calculus, frontward, backwards,
Yes, he was
everything.
smart. He still is smart.
Now, when you graduated from the junior college, what happened to Wally?
Well, I went off to the University of Texas at Austin, enrolled in electrical engineering school there, and 3 years later I came out with a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering.
Okay.
And then I went looking for a job and a bride,
All right. Now we're
in
going
that order.
we're going to hold you there, the bride and the job both. And let's get back to Betty Jane. All right, Miss Betty, let's talk about you after high school. What happened?
Well, I also went to Texarkana Junior College.
All right.
Wally and I were there 1 year together, as we were 1 year together in high school.
All right.
Even though I didn't know him until he was just about to graduate from high school. But we went to I went to junior college from fall of 49 through the spring of 51. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. 2 years at the junior college. And at that time, Wally was he was already gone one of those years.
Yes, to the University
And
of
I
Texas.
worked at the Warmack grocery store.
How wonderful.
Yes.
Yes.
It was right at the edge of town on the road out to Liberty Ilo area.
Yes.
So we passed it going into town and back out for
Well,
shopping,
that
and
was
we
great.
shopped there some also. And I worked there, and then in the June of 51, I transferred to, it was then Texas State College for Women in Denton, where I majored in library science. And I went I went straight through until I graduated in August of 52.
Okay.
And
TWU.
it
what
is
now TWU now?
yes. And then I worked for 1 year as librarian in the Longview High School, and then we got married in June of 1953.
Oh, June of 1953. You finally got that job with whom, Wally?
Well, I got to back up and tell you something before that. When I was looking for a job, I had several job offers since engineers were very actively needed.
Yes.
One of them was from a company in Grand Prairie called Chance Vaught,
All right.
and the other was from Convair in Fort Worth.
Yes.
And so on an Easter holiday, I came up and made interviews at both places. And I have to say, I chose Convair because I did not like that gravel street that ran down to Chance Vaught.
Yes.
And Jefferson ended just past the Naval Air Station.
That
It was
is
a
right.
gravel road.
Uh-huh.
And I couldn't think of a company being successful being located on a gravel
On
road.
a gravel road, yes, that is true.
But anyway, I made my mind up to go to Convair in Fort Worth.
And you stayed with them how long?
About 9 years.
About 9 years. And then what happened after the 9
Well,
years?
they paved the road in front of Chance Vaught, and I came over here.
I see. All of that has to do with the proper utilities and the proper
That's exactly right. It
infrastructure
impressed-
in your city.
It impressed me.
Yes, uh-huh. So then you came to Chance Vaught, and you were with them how long?
Well, through about 12 years through Chance Vaught, a name change to East Systems out in the Industrial District.
Yeah.
And then moved to Garland for several years, and finally got caught in a layoff at Garland in about 1975, and which was a blessing for me
Yes.
and my family,
All right.
because in 1963 we had decided to build our home in Grand Prairie,
Okay.
and we loved it. And when I got laid off, I was able to find a job with Control Products Corporation in Grand Prairie, and been there since 1975.
Okay.
It's a lovely place to work, good people, and you're certainly
And you have
appreciated.
been with Control Products how long?
About 22 years.
About 22 years. Oh, Wayne Hanks is so special.
Yes, he is.
A very good boss.
Yes,
Yes. And you're still hanging in there and not about to retire.
not about to, unless
that
they run
is-
me off. As long
oh.
as my health holds up and he keeps me, we'll be there.
That's great. We're going to leave you at Control Products for just a few minutes. We've got to get back to Betty, because Betty is really a special young lady in town, because she's had so many honors, served on so many boards and commissions and everything. But we know that you followed Wally through all of these different phases at Chance Vaught and Convair, and then Chance Vaught, and then on to E-Systems and Garland and all of this good stuff, and now
Yeah.
at Control Products. And during all that time, did you ever work out of the home?
I did, Ruthie, after we married and moved to Fort Worth. Our daughter was born in July of 1954.
All right, now let's document her. We'll give her full name, and do we have a picture?
Well, here's one right here.
She'll love your showing that one. of her,
Yes,
won't she?
this was made in
Yeah.
1973.
Uh-huh.
This is Patricia Jane Warmack.
How darling. And tell me a little bit about Patricia Jane. When she was born, where?
She was born July the 31st, 1954 in Fort Worth.
In Fort Worth, all right?
And we moved here in 1963. March of 1963, we moved into our house in Dorchester Estates. We were the fourth house out there.
All right.
The first house on Yorkshire Drive.
Oh, that is great.
We, of course, we've been here ever since. She was in the third grade when we moved here. She immediately
Okay.
started school at Austin. She went then to Adams and then on up to Grand Prairie High School. And
After Grand Prairie High School, what?
she went to Mountain View College
All right?
for 2 years, transferred to Texas Tech
All right.
for a year, then transferred to the University of Austin where she graduated.
All right.
And
What's she doing now?
she works for National Cash Register. Her major was French and her minor was history, and she has worked for National Cash Register
Ended up in the
almost
business
every
world.
Yes,
Isn't that
almost
unique?
ever since. And she has just been a wonderful daughter.
That's great.
They
Now-
have no children. She has no children.
All right. Is
We
she
have no
married?
grandchildren. She is divorced.
All right, that is good. We'll just leave that at that, but I need to know about the things that you've done in Grand Prairie, Texas. The boards and commissions you've served on, and what you're doing now. We have about 4 more minutes on our interview.
I have done many things in Grand Prairie. I was a charter member of the Women's Club. I don't attend anymore. I'm too busy with the library work.
Yes.
I drove for the Red Cross. I've done the Heart Drive. I've worked with, Wally and I both worked with community concerts for quite a few years. Now my main interest is the Grand Prairie library system.
Well, do you have anything to do with the Friends of the Library?
I'm president of the Friends of the Library. Wally is treasurer. We do everything we can to help the library here in Grand Prairie because it's a very important part of our city.
When did you first serve on the library board before you became Friends this time?
I was appointed, my first library board meeting was November 1966. And I served on the library board until 1980, I believe it was last part of 80, when I resigned from that post. We had finished the new building at that time. It was dedicated in December of 1979, and it was time to move on, and the city was incorporating a new policy for boards. I was on for many, many years, and
Yes.
now
6 years is the limit.
yes. But I'm back now on the board. You were so gracious to appoint me again. And I have been member of the Friends for I can't remember how long. And since we were reorganized by you in 1978,
We've come a long way, haven't we?
We've come a long way.
And now
I was
what do you-
just looking at the record book, and we had our first book sale in April of '81, a one-day sale. We made $864.31.
And the last time you had a sale, how much money did you make?
We made $4,000.
Oh, great, great,
And
great.
in April, we made nearly $8,000.
What's all this memorabilia and stuff you have here?
Well, it's just a few things that we found during looking through things for the book sale. An old
We just have about a minute to tell about it.
Rotary
An old Rotary program? Okay,
Club Woman of Texas program,
how great.
a book by Mrs. Rajabian about her husband's pilgrimage. This whole sack is a gift to you, Ruthie.
Oh, great, great. Archives,
Yes.
isn't it?
And
what
as,
else? Oh, that's what we want to talk about.
in October
That's it.
of 1998, I was very honored and proud and pleased to receive the Love Priest Senior Volunteer of the Year Award for Grand Prairie. It was so thrilling
Yes,
to receive that. Wally
Yes.
was there, and he had known for a week
yes.
and didn't
And
tell
he was
me.
very rude not to let you in on that secret, wasn't he?
But
Well, I told her clean living and pure thoughts to get whatever she wanted.
That is it.
so I'm really pleased. This is except for marrying Wally and having our daughter, this is one of the most wonderful things that's ever happened to me.
Yes, being the
And it's-
Outstanding Volunteer of the Year.
And it's not a matter of me winning the award, it's a matter of volunteers all over the city. And like Wally and I do, we want to give everything we can to our city.
That's wonderful. Well, I think we're getting about to the wind-up time. I see Mr. Tovar in there winding us down. I want to thank you all for being here and sharing your life with us. It's just been wonderful. You all are just stupendous citizens of the city of Grand Prairie. And thank you, and for all y'all have done for Grand Prairie. It is a blessing, and y'all have been a blessing to us. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.